open session and like to make a comment that no action was taken in our executive session. At this time, we'd like to welcome everyone to our meeting. At this time, our Vice Chair, George Kriminger, will lead us in our pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there any objection to approving the minutes as presented? And these are the minutes from May 5th, 2026. Hearing none, the minutes are approved by unanimous consent. Is there any objection to approving the agenda as presented? Hearing none, the agenda is approved by unanimous consent. And again, we'd like to welcome all of those of our visitors that are here with us today in person and online, and any of our media that may be present. We thank you for your interest in the work of the State Board. At this time, in the superintendent report, over to our superintendent.
Thank you so much, Chair Mathis. It's a joy to be with you today. I know we have a lot on the agenda, so I will try to run through this very quickly. I just wanted to highlight, since we last met, I had the wonderful opportunity of joining folks at the original Six Foundation, which is a foundation that works specifically in high-quality after-school and summer activities with students all across South Carolina, primarily in rural districts, started by our former governor, Nikki Haley, and they were celebrating a decade of opening doors for the students of South Carolina. And you'll see a young man standing by a door there. Each of the different 06 programs, as they call them, across the state had the opportunity to decorate a door that represented the door of opportunity and the door to their future. Mm-hmm. And I am proud to say that our folks in Allendale, our students in Allendale, were the popular winner of that competition. And so it was wonderful to be able to be with them and to celebrate the real difference that high quality after school providers and summer care providers provide to our students across the state. We are also incredibly blessed today to have 5 wonderful South Carolina seniors here with us today. These seniors represent 5 different regions across our state, and they are the winners of our student writing contest for the great men and women of South Carolina history that is done in partnership with Dominion Energy as part of our South Carolina African American History Calendar each year. And you'll recall that our theme this year is revolutionary, and so the prompt that the students wrote about was inspired by our Revolutionary War patriots such as Oscar Marion, who are featured in this year's African American History Calendar. And the prompt was to talk about an African American leader who has had an impact on them and their thinking and their journey, and to talk about how that leader embodies one or more of these 6 key pillars of our preamble to our Constitution: to form a more perfect union, to establish justice, to ensure domestic tranquility, to provide for the common defense, to promote the general welfare, and to secure the blessings of liberty. And so I just want to invite each of these students, as I call their name, to stand. I'm going to read a very brief snippet from their essay for the board. First up, from the upstate region, Wilson Quartles. He is a graduating senior at Greenville Tech Charter High School. And from his essay, Dr. Paula Ramos, a professor at the Medical University of South Carolina, has influenced my educational journey and inspired my desire to study genetics. Learning that my personal condition is caused by a genetic mutation made me curious, but also determined to understand how genetics can both explain suffering and create hope. Because of Dr. Ramos and my own personal experience, I plan to pursue a major in genetics and contribute to research that addresses rare diseases and health disparities. Please give him a round of applause. Thank you, Wilson. And I should mention, too, that as a result of Dominion's generosity, each of these students receives a MacBook Air Not a bad prize. You see them holding them right now. And then a $1,000 donation to their local district, which is wonderful. All right, our second winner from the Savannah River region is Demariona Harley, and she is a senior at Odyssey Online Learning, and she wrote about Esau Jenkins from her essay. Today, Esau Jenkins' legacy still has a profound impact on students like myself. Because of Esau Jenkins and others like him who fought tirelessly against injustice in America, we have the chance to attend school without segregation, are eligible to vote, and can express our opinions freely. By remembering Esau Jenkins, we honor the idea that true freedom begins with learning and that education is the key path to justice and opportunity. Congratulations, Demariana. Our next winner from the Midlands region is Pranavi Mancham from River Bluff High School, and she wrote, "Both as a person and as a student, I have been changed by this," talking about the life of the essayist that she wrote about. "I no longer walk away from hard questions. I am that age now, and I have decided to pursue a career in law in the future to protect names like Willie Leaphart's and to keep pushing until justice is fully served." Congratulations. Our next winner is Layla Slater from the PD region, a senior at Sumter High School, and she wrote, speaking of Septima Clark, "Clark's story has inspired me in many ways. She reminds me that education is not something to take for granted, but is something that can shape my future and allow me to help others. It also encourages me to think about how I can use what I learned to make a positive difference in my community." Congratulations, Layla. And our final finalist, rounding out the Low Country region, is Kashana Abraham from Lake Marion High School. And she wrote of my personal hero, Mary McLeod Bethune. "Dr. Bethune's life shows how education can be a transformative force that touches every principle in the preamble. Through her courage, vision, and dedication, she advanced justice, promoted general welfare, strengthened unity, and secured liberty for generations to come. Her legacy reminds us that the work of one individual can ripple outward, inspiring students and communities to uphold the ideals that form the foundation of our nation." Congratulations, Kashana. And again, I would just like to say a heartfelt thank you to our partners at Dominion, whose generosity makes the awards for those wonderful students possible. Let's give them all one more round of applause. We also had the opportunity a few weeks ago to celebrate each of our graduates across the state of South Carolina who have chosen to go to a military academy or to enlist in our armed forces. It was a wonderful day of celebration on the base there at Fort Jackson. And although we won't be together in July, we know that there are many patriotic holidays, starting with Memorial Day that we just celebrated. We have D-Day coming up on June the 6th. We have Flag Day on June the 14th. And then, of course, America's 250th birthday on Independence Day on July 4th. And so I wanted to play the opening video that our talented communications team put together. I recently had the opportunity to sit down and interview General James Livingston in Charleston, who is one of our wonderful Medal of Honor recipients here in South Carolina. And so this was the video that we showed to open our Military Honor Cord ceremony. And I think you'll find great inspiration in it, just like we did.
We met as soulmates on Paris Island.
these Marines were in jeopardy, and I was a guy, and I Company was the company I thought would come to their rescue and pull out what was becoming a very dire situation. And a young 18 and 19 and 20-year-old Marines magnificently took the battle to the enemy and won the day. And if I had displayed any sort of inability to respond regardless of the fact that I was pretty well shot up, that would reflect it in the way they perform. So I think there's always an opportunity to rise above yourself in terms of what do you expect of yourself. You have to decide what your whole life is going to encompass and not use one experience as a way to sort of say, I'm this great guy. Every day you stand up, you want to take the life challenges on and perform every element of greatness you can as a person for that particular day. So don't let one event define your life. Let your total life define your life. Always strive, if you will, to raise the bar. I mean, what would the world would be without an America? And I also remind young Americans, for every one of you, there's 10,000 kids in the world would love to take your place. That's what you've inherited. Defend it, support it, engage it, and improve it.
And we held on to each other like brother to brother. We promised our mothers we'd rise, and we would all go down together. We said we'd all go down together.
Thank you, Superintendent Weaver, and it's so good to see the celebrations this time of year as we close out this school year. It's been very encouraging to the success that our students have had, and it's as a result of, I think, the strong leadership and teachers in our schools. So congratulations to each of them. We will now enter a time of public comment, and I believe we have one speaker, Patrick Kelly. And Patrick, as you come forward, we appreciate your interest in public education, and we've allotted you 5 minutes, and you know the routine. While we're hearing this for the first time, we will take this as information and get back with you if we have other comments or questions.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Superintendent Weaver, members of the board. My name is Patrick Kelly. Some new faces. I'm the Director of Governmental Affairs for Palmetto State Teachers Association, and I just wrapped up year 21 teaching AP Government at Blythewood High School. For those of you that have been on the board for more than a hot second, I spoke to you in June 2025 with an offer of a summer reading or pondering assignment related to grade inflation. 12 months later, with the governor signing H. 5073 into law, I'm happy to report South Carolina is now a national leader in addressing grade inflation. To my knowledge, we're the first state in the nation to ban grade floor policies, and the new law directs the department to lead a review process in the coming year of the uniform grading policy that will identify additional ways our state can ensure grades are a meaningful measure of what students know and can do. But today I come before you to put a different policy on your summer consideration list before you head out for your whole month off from board meetings. In 2022, the State Board approved a 3-year pilot program to establish a provisional initial certification for individuals that complete all non-testing requirements for initial educator certification, but fall just short of achieving the required passing score on Praxis 2. Under this program, an individual that scores within 2 standard errors of measurement on the required test cut score can receive a provisional initial certificate, allowing them to teach for up to 3 years while they're working to fulfill one of 4 established pathways for demonstrating content competency as required by state law for educator certification. That 3-year pilot program is nearing its end, and it's up to the board in 2026 to determine whether or not to extend the program. PSTA strongly supports the board making this certification pathway permanent. While our association firmly believes content mastery is an essential component of effective teaching, we also know that a single high-stakes test, like Praxis 2, is not always the best or only measure of content mastery. The Provisional Initial Certification Program acknowledges this fact, providing additional pathways for aspiring educators to demonstrate content mastery. Please permanently establish this pathway, and in doing so, evaluate new opportunities, like the Praxis Bridge or STEPS opportunities, to add to the existing 4 pathways for individuals to demonstrate content mastery. This has brought great teachers into the classroom, and we need to continue to offer it. But don't stop there. While the provisional initial certificate provides an alternative pathway for individuals struggling with Praxis 2, PSTA consistently hears from aspiring educators and educator preparation programs about the barrier created by the Praxis Core requirement for enrollment in educator prep. The need to evaluate and reform the Praxis Core requirement is something that was discussed by both the 2023 Teacher Recruitment and Retention Task Force that was led by the late Dr. Barbara Nielsen, as well as Superintendent Weaver's 2025 Strategic Talent Acquisition and Retention Task Force, or START. At minimum, I asked the board to follow up on the START Task Force finding that there's a lack of concrete data on how many aspiring educators are prevented from pursuing certification annually due to low scores on Praxis Core. But after securing the data, I encouraged the board to take 2 additional steps. First, investigate alternative skills assessments for aspiring educators, whether that's an existing national test like the National Evaluation Series, or following states like Florida, Massachusetts, and California that have developed their own in-house assessment. Second, consider creating a Praxis Core equivalent to the Provisional Initial Certificate Program. This would allow aspiring educators to enroll in an educator prep program if their score falls within 2 standard errors of measurement on the established cut score of Praxis Core, with further pathways and opportunities then provided for that aspiring educator to demonstrate the mastery required by state law. Our state has made important steps forward in educator recruitment and retention over the last 5 years, and this is another tool in the tool belt to ensure that we can continue to put a highly qualified educator in every classroom in South Carolina. Thank you for your time and consideration and for your service to our state.
Thank you, Patrick. We appreciate your comments today. Now we move into the State Board of Education committee reports, and I remind everyone that a bulk of our work was in committee work this morning, and this becomes more of a summary of what that work was, what took place this morning. First of all, the Policy and Legislative Committee did not meet this month. And so at this time, I recognize Dr. Johnson to present the Educator Professions Committee report.
Thank you, Dr. Mathis. The Education Professions Committee met this morning and approved 2 action items. First, new alternative route program in Lexington School District 2, and secondly, South Carolina Certification Assessment Program, which is providing for additional testing option for physical education. These action items were approved and placed on the consent agenda. We did not hear any information items. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. The report stands as a motion made from the committee. It does not require a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the report with aye? Aye. Anyone opposed? The next committee is the Standards, Learning, and Accountability Committee. Today, the committee met and heard 3 items. 1 action item, the Charleston County School District request a School of Innovation waiver for the Meeting Street, Burns, and Brentwood schools. That action item was approved and placed on the consent agenda. Then we heard 2 information items. One was the selection of the State Textbook Depository, R.L. Bryan, and the second information item was the cyclical review of the 2019 South Carolina College and Career Ready Standards for Social Studies. So the approval, the action item of the Charleston County Schools was approved and placed on the consent agenda. And so, again, this report stands as a motion from the committee and does not require a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the motion carries. The Instructional Materials Committee did not meet this month, But now I recognize Mr. Cliff Warren to present the Educator Licensure Committee report.
Thank you, Chair Mathis. We had 6 cases this morning that we heard in total, and 6 suspensions to go along with that, and all were ratified by the full board.
Thank you. Additionally, the full board did ratify all actions taken by the ELC committee. The full board Educator Licensure Committee met, and we approved 1 candidate for initial certification, 2 denials for initial certification, and 1 order of permanent revocation. And again, additionally, the board ratified all the actions taken by the ELC committee. Do I have a motion to approve these reports?
Crimminger, so move.
Is there a second?
Shore, second.
And those reports are approved. All items then were presented to the State Board for committee that make up the consent agenda. The consent agenda has been distributed. Is there a motion to approve? Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Cheney, second.
Johnson, second. All in favor of the motion carrying by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the motion carries. And now we move to the South Carolina Board of Education report, and we will recognize Attorney Henry Gunner regarding the superintendent's request for approval of the State of Education Emergency Declaration of Marlboro County School District pursuant to South Carolina Code 5/18/1640. Mr. Gunner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, members of the State Board, and good afternoon, Superintendent Weaver. The South Carolina Department of Education and Superintendent Weaver are requesting that the State Board of Education approve Superintendent Weaver's declaration of a state of education emergency in the Marlboro County School District. That declaration is based on significant financial and governance issues within the district, and it is the superintendent and the department's determination that the state of education emergency declaration is necessary in order to fully remediate all of the identified issues. I think a good trick for PowerPoints is being able to read them. So I'm going to start with the legal context for the superintendent's declaration and provide an explanation as to the State Board of Education's role when it comes to its review of the declarations. The South Carolina General Assembly in 2022 passed South Carolina Code Section 59-18-1640. It is contained within the Education Accountability Act, and it provides for very specific, limited circumstances where a state takeover of a school district is appropriate. I would highlight for the board before I get into each specific circumstance that these are structural issues within a district. The General Assembly identified very specific circumstances that are significant enough that it can have an effect on the district's ability to continue to operate and successfully serve its students and to be there for its staff and its communities. The 4 circumstances identified by the General Assembly in the statute are: number 1, the district is identified as underperforming for 3 consecutive years. Number 2, the district's accreditation is denied. Number 3, the state superintendent of education determines that a district's turnaround plan results are insufficient. Or number 4, the district is classified as being in a fiscal emergency under the Education Finance Act provision 59-20-90, or financial mismanagement resulting in a deficit has occurred. As we get into the factual basis for the declaration itself, I would just highlight for the board that the 2 statutory grounds that we're currently operating under are grounds 3 and 4, where there has been a determination that the district's turnaround plan results are insufficient, and the district has also been in a classification of fiscal emergency since February of 2025. And I would highlight for the board that in July of 2025, the Department of Education requested that the State Board approve the department's assumption of financial control of the district. And one other thing while we're on this slide, actually, under ground number 1, I would highlight just for the board that the district has been underperforming for the last 2 consecutive years. It is certainly possible, if not likely, that the board will be underperforming, or the district will be underperforming for a 3rd year when the next year's report card data comes out. In the 2025-2026 report card data, 75% of the district schools were underperforming. The district was the 2nd lowest performing academic district in the state. As to the State Board of Education's role in the State of Education Emergency Declaration, when it passed the new statute in 2022, the General Assembly found that it was appropriate that the State Board serve as a check on the State Superintendent of Education's power and review the factual and legal basis for a declaration. Interestingly, the previous emergency declarations occurred via proviso. As the board may know, provisos are 1-year laws included as part of the legislature's Appropriations Act. So beginning in 2016-2017, Proviso 1A.12 was included in those budgets, and it provided for an emergency declaration power by the state superintendent, and that was included in each iteration of the budget leading up to 2022 with the passage of the new law. I would just highlight again that the previous provisos did not have the element of State Board of Education approval. One important bit of context here is under the Education Finance Act, there are 3 escalating levels of fiscal concern: fiscal watch, fiscal caution, and fiscal emergency. Each of those fiscal levels has triggering circumstances where the declaration is warranted or necessary, and each escalating level calls for more intensive support by the Department of Education. So on February 28, 2022, the district was placed on fiscal watch based upon material deficiencies in its internal controls and repeat audit findings. That fiscal watch was continued in fiscal year 2023 and 2024. The district was also notified that if the underlying financial issues were not remedied, then it may be placed under fiscal emergency. On February 18th, 2025, the district was placed on fiscal emergency based upon material findings in the fiscal year 2024 audit report and the failure to timely submit its fiscal year 2025 audit support. So I highlighted the 3 levels of fiscal designations. When I say there's 3 levels, I'll kind of be a stereotypical lawyer and I'll put an asterisk on that, because fiscal emergency has sort of a built-in additional layer of support where if circumstances require further financial intervention by the department, the state superintendent of education can take over the district's finances, and as the state board knows, those requests are presented to the state board for approval. On July 10th, 2025, following the district's failure to pass a balanced budget, Superintendent Weaver recommended to the state board that the SCDE take over financial operations of the district. That request was ultimately approved by the state board. The request was really based on the bare fact that the district's expenditures exceeded its revenues. And the district's solution for this was to draw upon its already significantly depleted fund balance in order to maintain operations. The department had a substantial concern that the district would not meet its baseline financial obligations and that the district would not be able to provide necessary services to students if it did not intervene. Contemporaneous with that request that the department take over the district's finances, Superintendent Weaver requested that the State Inspector General's office open an investigation into the district after the department received credible information related to procurement and financial irregularities in the district. After a nearly 1-year investigation where the State Inspector General reviewed hundreds of transactions across many operational areas of the district, the State Inspector General found significant financial and governance failures by the Marlboro County School District Board of Education. I'm normally not a fan of reading off slides, but I do think the State Inspector General's words are incredibly important here, where he concluded that the district exhibited failures in fiscal practices, adherence to its procurement code, sustained tax and insurance liabilities, mismanagement of funds, and insufficient documentation for vendor payments that represented significant deficiencies and material weaknesses in the district's capacity to govern and manage the finances of the district. The report also highlighted various failures of oversight by the board and instances where the board prioritized its own financial self-interest. The State Inspector General concluded that the circumstances demonstrate that the district has failed to meaningfully implement its fiscal emergency turnaround plans, and that is a determination in which Superintendent Weaver concurs. So just to highlight this for the board, if my technology will cooperate, looking at governing law, section 3 there in 5918-1640, it refers to the insufficiency of a district's turnaround plan. Getting into some of the most notable SIG findings in the opinion of the Department of Education, the district failed to disclose more than $1 million in IRS liabilities on its financial statements. That stems from an issue in 2024 where the district failed to file required IRS forms related to employer-provided health insurance. After the district failed to file those forms, the IRS notified the district that a penalty was being levied of approximately $92,000. After action was not taken by the district in the next 2 years, that amount in terms of penalties and interest ballooned to over $1 million. And the SIG highlighted that that is a particularly jarring findings given the ability to work with the IRS, where entities are able to negotiate a lower amount, entities are able to negotiate a payment plan, and the district wholly failed to avail itself of those possibilities. Similarly, the district as a public employer has an obligation to pay its portion of insurance payments to PEBA. The district failed to do so, and the outstanding balance to PEBA totals approximately $726,000. In looking at what in the department's estimation is the most significant aspect of the SIG's report, in looking at hundreds of financial transactions for procurement compliance, the SIG reviewed a sample of 18 contractual procurement transactions during the years 2020 to 2025. In all 18, so 100% of those contractual transactions, the district failed to comply with its procurement code. Similarly, the SIG found significant P-card noncompliance. Now, P-card is a purchasing card. It is a vehicle through which districts pay for a number of normal transactions in the ordinary course of business. The SIG reviewed 342 transactions during that 2020 to 2025 year time span. The transactions totaled $696,861. The SIG concluded that $695,543 of those transactions did not comply with the district's procurement requirements. So well over 99% of the purchasing card transactions failed to comply with the purchasing card. Similarly, the SIG found significant grant funding noncompliance. The SIG reviewed ESSER grant awards that were made to the district. Now, ESSER stands for, let's see if I can get it right, Elementary and Secondary School Education Relief Funding, where as part of the coronavirus pandemic, districts received various pots of ESSER funding, ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3. The SIG reviewed 99 out of 295 transactions for ESSER 2 funding. Out of those 99 transactions, 56 of them, affecting $3.5 million of expenditures, failed to comply with the applicable requirements. So when you go back to the statutory scheme and this understanding that you are looking at structural issues that have a significant bearing on the district's operational and financial health, this is the type of pervasive failure that rises to the level of a structural issue. As you see in that table, the SIG put all of those various liabilities together, and the aggregate financial effect was $7.3 million. I would highlight for this board that what you're working with is a sample of transactions. The SIG reviewed hundreds of transactions, but the SIG only reviewed a percentage of all of the underlying transactions. And so if you were to delve into every single transaction, the amount would likely or unquestionably be even higher than that. One item in the SIGS report that I want to pay specific attention to is the SIGS conclusion that the district board increased its compensation and granted themselves bonuses, which has direct implications of the South Carolina Ethics Act. The SIG initially reviewed the district's compensation and found that it was disproportionate to similarly situated districts in Dillon, Marion, and Chesterfield. The district's baseline pay was $7,500 for regular members and $10,000 for the chair. In June of 2024, the chair unilaterally increased board member pay to $12,000 for members and $16,000 for the chair. Those amounts for the 18 months where that pay was in effect, those amounts made the Marlboro County School Board the third highest paid Board of Education in the state of South Carolina. Only the Greenville County School District, which has approximately 75,000 students, and the Horry County School District, which has approximately 47,000 students, had a higher paid board than the Marlboro County School Board, who oversees a district of 3,200 students. Another significant finding, so just one final point on that, after concern was raised by Dr. Thorsland, the interim superintendent, among others, the board rolled back the additional pay after concern was raised in December of 2025. So June of 24 to December of 25 is when that pay was in effect. The SIG also found 5 instances between 2022 and 2024 where board members awarded themselves bonuses. Those bonuses totaled a amount of $4,331 per board member. And again, because you have an instance where a board is voting to provide itself a financial benefit, the SIG highlighted that that has direct implications of the Ethics Act. One final board member pay issue that was flagged by the Inspector General was the fact that multiple board members were receiving coaching stipends in violation of district policy, and one board member was being paid through a third-party provider providing services for the district in violation of board policy. In addition to the SIG's findings, there's some interrelation here where the department's findings and experiences largely mirror issues identified by the Inspector General. There are numerous failures where the board failed to adequately supervise the district's previous superintendents. You have a widespread long-term failure to responsibly and reasonably manage the district's financial affairs, including its annual budgets. That resulted in significant deficits, a depleted fund balance well below the minimum required by state law, and the recent downgrading of the district's credit rating. Additionally, there is a robust procedural history where the district board, or a segment of the district board, I would say, failed to cooperate with SCDE-led changes that were aimed at correcting the district's long-term challenges. Some recent examples include the district board's failure to follow the agreed-upon procedure for the search and selection of the district's next superintendent. I would highlight the superintendent search as significant not only because it is an example of a failed partnership, but it also has bearing on the district's financial health, where the district superintendent is most directly involved in the daily implementation of the district's financial affairs. The board, has enormous deference to the superintendent. So the superintendent, when you consider all of the necessary financial reforms that are being led by the department, the superintendent choice had significant bearing. And as mentioned previously, the district is at serious risk of meeting the additional statutory ground related to being underperforming for 3 years. The department felt that it would be helpful to request that Dr. Michael Thorsland address the board. Dr. Thorsland has served as the interim superintendent of the district, I believe, since August. Dr. Thorsland is enormously acquainted with the procedural history here as well as the district's finances. So I would like to invite Dr. Thorsland to provide a brief overview of the district's finances and some of his experiences in the district.
Thank you. So I did start in Marlboro in late August, just as a technical assistance provider at first. I became interim superintendent in November. So getting into the budget, approved last year by the board in July was a budget with expenditures of $42,781,000. However, during the year, we discovered that about $1 million worth of necessary contracts for special education were not budgeted. That is largely in part to the fact that Marlboro has a difficult time recruiting special ed teachers. And when we have a classroom that's not staffed by a teacher that's our employee, we sometimes have to call contract agencies to provide a teacher. So those they end up not being paid from a salary account, but a contractual account. Well, those weren't budgeted, and that was $1 million. So the $42 million that was approved by the board immediately, you're looking at $43,781,000 because of that not being budgeted. Other budgets were not adequately estimated to a much lesser degree than the $1 million there for special ed. But the bottom line is that even though the board approved a budget that would have left $3.5 million in the general fund balance, it's not going to be that on June 30th of this year. This just shows revenue versus expenditures for the past few years, and you can see beginning with the 22-23 year, not just a little bit of overspending, but a large amount of deficit spending. And the 25-26 year there is highlighted blue because that is, of course, an estimate. Both revenue and expenditures are estimated, but we anticipate another deficit of about $2.5 million this year. So it'll be a fourth straight year. If you've watched our board meetings, you will have heard some of the board members in Marlboro comment that if there's a deficit this year, it's the State Department's fault because the State Department took over in July. I pushed back against that in the meetings, and I would do that today as well, because when a board approves a budget with staffing being 85 to 90% of your budget, you've pretty much set the tone for the coming year. So the budget that's being approved right now is what's setting the tone going forward, and that's the budget that the State Department is responsible for. The current fiscal year budget was really approved last July, and we've been making improvements in that, but again, significant improvement after a budget is passed is very difficult. This is another challenge the district is facing. Just many rural districts in South Carolina are facing a decline in student enrollment, and the state funding, which is probably 70% in Marlboro County, is largely driven by student enrollment. So compounding just the local financial difficulties, revenues decreasing because of the number of students. Now, you won't see, I shouldn't say it's decreasing because state funding has increased each year, but it's increasing at a much slower rate than you would expect because our student count is dropping. This was probably the most enlightening slide that I can give. Early in my time in Marlboro, I just selected 3 districts that are similar sized, and I didn't pick them with any particular intention other than the fact that if you rank all the South Carolina districts by student enrollment, these are the next 3 right above Marlboro. So you would expect them to be similarly staffed. You can see the district offices that I examined. So I essentially wanted to know, what's your total staffing at the district office in your district that's very similarly sized to Marlboro? And I didn't just rely on internet research. I actually called people and talked to people in these offices and said, I need to know every single employee in your district office. And in Anderson 2, Lexington 4, and Union, you can see the total number of employees. So that would be clerical, administrative, any employee in those offices. And you can see the numbers were very consistent in those next 3 districts, 24, 27, 25. But Marlboro had 45 at the time. And I mean, 85 to 90% staffing in a school district budget there's a majority of the problems. I will say over the course of the last 10 months, going into next year, the number in Marlboro will be 29. So we've made significant improvements over the course of the year. So the current state of the budget, we're conservatively estimating a revenue of $41,462,771 for FY27, and we've been able to trim expenses down to $40.5 million roughly. So we do anticipate a budget surplus of approximately, between $850,000 and $900,000, which is not where we need to be. I think we'll be below the 8.33% requirement this June 30th and next June 30th. So a year from now, even if we add $900,000 to the fund balance, we're probably going to be close to that number again. We may get slightly over it, but still going to be budget challenges for years to come because we're digging out of a hole. We've got a school district budget. It's not a not a jet ski that you turn on a dime. It's more like a ship that you have to get turned. The ship's turned, but we're way in a deficit position right now, so we've got to gain some ground to get back to a healthy financial situation. So looking ahead, want to certainly continue to work on school district finances, develop a multi-year budget plan, which we're working with the department to do that. We didn't have the slides in here about the fee and lieu revenue, but county council, across the state, county councils have 100% authority to distribute fee and lieu funds how they want to, and a significant decision was made in Marlboro County a year ago by their county council that took away about $1.2 million in fee and lieu funding, which further compounded our budget problems. So we want to work with county council to see if some of that may be restored, and then continue to align salaries. While there were a few salaries that may have been off scales that were kind of maybe inordinately high, a very few, by and large, I would say Marlboro County employees are not overpaid, they're underpaid. When I did kind of a regional survey, just school districts in the PD region, our employees are not overpaid. We just had too many. We had too many administrators at the district office. We had too many secretaries at the district office. A few other positions, a lot of teachers' assistants, but it's not that employees are overpaid. They're just we just had too many employees for the number of students we had. So, yeah, I'm good.
The factual and legal circumstances here indicate that the statutory requirements for a state of education emergency declaration have clearly been met. One thing I would highlight, and I don't need to speak for Superintendent Weaver, she is more than capable of speaking for herself, but I think what you have here is a clear intention by the superintendent and the department to exhaust every less significant measure prior to taking the state of education emergency declaration step. That going back, if y'all will bear with me while I click here, going back to the statute itself in ground number 4, the existence of a fiscal emergency or fiscal mismanagement resulting in a deficit occurring. That circumstance was present last February at the time, February 2025, at the time that fiscal emergency was declared. It was present in July when the department assumed financial operations over the district. In recognizing the significance of supplanting a locally elected Board of Education, every less significant step has been taken here. Every effort has been made to obtain the necessary results through partnership. Unfortunately, in looking at those structural issues identified in the SIG report and looking at the pervasive governance and financial failures, the only step that will fully resolve all of the issues is that declaration. Superintendent Weaver and the department are requesting that the State Board of Education approve that declaration. And like I said, I don't need to speak for Superintendent Weaver. She can speak for herself. I would like to invite her to add any additional commentary.
Thank you so much, Henry, and Chair Mathis, members of the State Board. Last year, we were here having this same conversation about extraordinary action that we needed to take in Jasper County. And what I'm pleased to tell you is that during our academic report today, we're going to hear about the significant improvements that we have seen in Jasper County as a result of that tough decision that was made. And one of the many lessons we've learned in this experience is that we do need better statewide early warning systems that identify distressed districts sooner and allow us to intervene before problems become crises. That work is already well underway as part of the department's effort to strengthen accountability. I have provided you all with a report that details 2 years of work that our staff has been doing in partnership with the General Assembly and school finance officers across the state to help us build out those early warning systems. And the General Assembly actually this year appropriated funds that will allow us to build some of that infrastructure that we know is important. But back to today's focus, which is Marlboro County, I want to re-emphasize what Henry has already said, that every less drastic measure was already taken. We gave district leadership every opportunity to work with us, not against us. We provided technical assistance, we approved recovery plans, we declared a fiscal emergency, and with your support, we assumed responsibility of the district's financial operations. We also provided experienced, deep leadership and operational support. And this recommendation comes to you today only after every lesser intervention failed to produce the level of governance necessary to not just turn the district around, but to sustain that recovery for the long run. I want to acknowledge very clearly that not every member of the local board bears equal responsibility for where we find ourselves today. Some members of that board genuinely attempted to do the right thing under very difficult circumstances, and I'm grateful for their efforts. But our ultimate responsibility is not to adults, it's to children. Last school year, the Marlboro school year started in complete chaos. The students of Marlboro will never get a second chance at their education. We need the next 2 months this year to put long-term leadership in place and ensure a smooth and stable, successful start to the school year, because we believe in the purpose and potential of every student in Marlboro. It is our responsibility as leaders to support their teachers, to support their principals, and to ensure that every student has the access to the kind of education that gives them a real shot at success in life. We cannot leave their future up to chance, or worse yet, a game of chicken filled with irresponsible rhetoric, division, and the self-dealing agendas that were surfaced in the State Inspector General's report. I want to express my profound gratitude to Dr. Michael Thorsland and Miss Angela Grant. Michael would never want me to draw attention to him, but for nearly a year, he has made an 8-hour-a-week round-trip commute, spending time away from his family to serve the students and educators of Marlboro County. Alongside Angela's financial expertise, his steady leadership and practical experience has pulled this district back from the brink of insolvency. Today, the district has a balanced budget and a path forward. That progress only happened because dedicated people like Michael and Angela rolled up their sleeves and did the hard work. And the people of Marlboro County have been watching. Following the board's recent failed superintendent search, we received over 60 unsolicited emails and phone calls from parents, grandparents, teachers, staff, business owners, community leaders, former board members, retirees, and concerned citizens. 73% of those communications supported the department's intervention and assistance. Nearly 60% explicitly requested state takeover or dissolution of the local board. Only 3 comments out of those 60 supported the board majority's decision-making. On balance, those comments all told the same story, a loss of trust. And today, I want the people of Marlboro County to know that we have heard them. We stand shoulder to shoulder with the parents, educators, and citizens who know something is clearly broken and have repeatedly begged for help. As we've often talked about here at the State Board about our beating the odds schools, leadership is the linchpin. The students of Marlboro County deserve focused leadership that makes their achievement the district's North Star, and that's what we seek to provide here today. I'm not going to sugarcoat the difficulty of the road ahead. There is still significant work to do, as Dr. Thorsland said. But today is about restoring hope in a community that has lost it for far too long. Because where there is hope, people are willing to answer the call to do the hard work that hope requires. And I know Michael will agree that we have found many of those people in Marlboro County who are just asking us to give them a chance. Should the board approve this declaration today, my clear message to the people of Marlboro County is simple. We are here to work alongside you. We are here to restore stability. We are here to rebuild trust. And we are here to help you unleash the full promise and potential of your children. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd open the floor to the board's questions and respectfully ask for your approval of the requested state of emergency declaration.
Thank you, Superintendent Weaver. Board members, do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Gunner or Dr. Thorsland?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
no question, but from Superintendent Weaver, if she could remind the public and us what that process is going to look like if we take over.
Absolutely. So the way that the law is written, and Henry, please correct me if I say anything incorrect, it is a minimum of a 6-year process. The first 3 years of this process would be complete state control of the district, in which we will set exit criteria for that 3 years, benchmarks that the district would need to meet in order to move to the second phase of the takeover under state law, which would be an appointed district, again, for a minimum of a 3-year period. So we are looking at implications for a minimum of 6 years of either complete state control or state control plus an appointed board situation.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve for approval of the State of Education Emergency Declaration of Marlboro County School District pursuant to South Carolina Code 518-640?
Mr. Chair, I move that the State Board of Education approves the superintendent's request for a state of emergency declaration for the Marlboro County School District.
A motion has been made by Dr. Hanley. Is there a second?
Kriminger, second.
Joyce Kriminger has seconded the motion. Any further questions or comments? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign. The motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. And at this time, we will now hear from Laura Hickson, Dr. Laura Hickson, for an update on Jasper County.
Thank you, Chair Mathis and Superintendent Weaver and board members. It is my honor today to introduce Dr. Laura Hickson to speak to us this afternoon. Dr. Hickson is a leader who exemplifies resilience, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to students and community. As interim superintendent of Jasper County Schools, Dr. Hickson has led with both courage and compassion. She has brought together the people, she has focused on solutions, and she has worked tirelessly to ensure that every student has the opportunity to succeed in Jasper County. Dr. Hickson's work reflects not only expertise, but heart and a belief that every school system can grow stronger with the right leadership. And with that, Dr. Hickson.
State Board Chair, Dr. Mathis, and other members of the board, and State Superintendent Weaver, good afternoon. I'm a little nervous after that report. But I am honored to be here today to share an update on the progress of Jasper County School District as we concluded the 2025-26 school year on yesterday. Yesterday was the last day for our students. On Saturday was the last day for our graduates for the class of 2026. So today I will give an update after one full year of state takeover. When I accepted this assignment in late August on behalf of State Superintendent Ellen Weaver and the State Department of Education, the focus was clear. Address structural issues, as was shared earlier with the upcoming district. strengthen organizational effectiveness, reinforce accountability, build public confidence, and create the conditions necessary for continuous improvement across the district, academically and financially. With this in mind, several meetings were held with parents, students, community members, and staff, and we established 3 priorities. Those priorities were around safety, quality education, and transparency as it relates to the finances in the district. Jasper County is a community with significant strengths, tremendous potential, and a deep commitment to its students. My work this year has centered on identifying and connecting and supporting these strengths while establishing the systems and expectations necessary to move the district forward. Under transparency, strong organizations are built on trust, and trust built through consistent communication, accountability, and clarity. Throughout the year, we expanded public communication, increased opportunities for community engagement, conducted a number of public meetings, and strengthened accountability measures across the district. We also worked to establish greater alignment among the district leadership, school administration, and operational functions to ensure expectation, priorities, and responsibilities were clear. Those efforts have strengthened the trust and transparency in Jasper County School District. We continue to strengthen district-wide safety measures and protocols to reinforce supportive learning environments and expand with local agencies and community partnerships, including the State Department's team. Safe and orderly schools remain fundamental to student achievement, staff effectiveness, and organizational excellence. The work will continue to be a priority as we move forward. Another priority was quality education. While systems and structures matter, student outcomes remain our ultimate measure of success, and meeting the state's expectation of 75% meets or exceeds by 2030. Even though we have a long ways to go, the mission is possible, and we are making progress. This year's graduating class, and you should have a handout, that one-pager. This year's graduating class, it says 177. Add 3 because we had 3 early graduates, so we have 180 students that graduated in the class of 2026. This is from Ridgeland High School and Hardyville High School, a total of 180. Students also demonstrated success through dual enrollment, credential attainment, academic certificates, and career and technical educational pathways. Some of the highlights are listed. There were 40 students who earned college credentials, which is an increase from last year's 17. Last year there were 17. This year we ended with 40. 17 students earned associate degrees, and all 40 of those students earned at least one certification. 129 career and technical education completers, which is an increase from last year, 79. So we have an increase there, and I wanted to just highlight that we have 7 students who actually earned drone pilot certification. We have 3 that earned forklift certification. There were 6 students who earned worldwide entrepreneurship small business certification, 2 students earned the full cybersecurity certification. They had to go through 3 certifications to get that full module. And 26 students earned the Safe Serve, and those are just some of the highlights. These accomplishments reflect the hard work of students, the dedication of educators, and the commitment of families throughout Jasper County. Looking ahead, as we enter into the 2026-27 school year, our focus remains on continuous improvement around the standards of climate, culture, curriculum, and community. We will continue strengthening organization systems, supporting school leaders and educators, increasing operational effectiveness, financial stability, and we're pleased to say that the 2022-23 financials are now with the auditors. Again, just a reminder, there were 3 audits behind, so we've completed 1 and it's moving. Jatana and her team, they're doing an excellent job getting all this work done. It's been a long road, but they're getting it done. The progress reflected in this report represents more than accomplishments from a single year. It reflects the establishment of a stronger foundation for the work ahead. I remain grateful for the trust placed in me by Superintendent Weaver, the State Board, and the Jasper County community. We have truly built trust within the district. On last evening, we presented to the council the 2026-27 budget for the new year. And Jatana looked at me and she said, Dr. Hickson, it was not like this last year. But we have a great working relationship, and the meeting went very well. So we're looking forward to continuing to build in Jasper County School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hickson. And I would say you're the right person for that job to be there. Just one note, the career completers, that's impressive because that is something that affects their life right now.
Absolutely.
And so that's impressive, and I know that will grow and continue. So thank you for the work
You're
that you've
welcome.
done.
Thank you.
With that, is there any other business? Do any board members have anything to share for the good of the order? Other than that, board members, I'll remind you to give Jess your travel forms if you've not already done so. And with that, I'll ask motion to adjourn by Ken Richardson. Is there a second? Second, Cliff Warren. All in favor with aye. We're adjourned.